mean, it's still going to take me 10 times.
I think we just roll with it. I'm used to teaching 120 students, like we have the sound system. We're going to get started.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, that's better than the intro class I teach. Appreciate everybody being here. Good morning. I'm Tim Canty. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Atmospheric and Oceanic Science. I'm also the director of the University System-wide Marine Estuary and Environmental Sciences graduate program, and I am the principal investigator of the Maryland HydroNet project. To all of the distinguished guests joining us today, including legislators from the Maryland General Assembly, leaders from Anne Arundel and Charles counties, University of Maryland colleagues, the National Weather Service, local business owners and others and guests, and people just wandering by, everybody's welcome. I want to thank each of you for being here today in Annapolis for the unveiling of our Maryland HydroNet. I hope the weather holds out. It's kind of fitting we're having this unveiling today when there's an aerial flood watch, and we're also at kind of high tide this week too, so we're fortunate we're not standing in water. The initial goal of this effort is to deploy a low-cost water level sensor network to support ongoing and future climate resiliency and flood projects, and we're thankful to all our partners for welcoming us into this effort, into their efforts, and also to provide the public with data that they can use to advocate for themselves. To be clear, the purpose of this project isn't for scientists like myself to write research papers, and at the risk of being branded a heretic, I don't care if research papers come out of this. I hope they do. They probably will. But the goal of this is for us to get out of the labs and into the streets. It's to help our partners. It's to support our communities, our neighbors, our businesses. We live here too. And this is the whole purpose. As an air quality scientist who's worked with Maryland Department of the Environment for about 15 years, I've seen time and time again where Maryland leads. Oh, I thought we were getting serenaded. Maryland leads the country, the region, and Maryland has to continue doing this. We don't have a choice. We can't turn our back on rising sea levels and just hope for the best. We have to continue to lead because these problems don't affect just some businesses or just some communities. They affect all of us. And tackling an environmental problem means tackling community problems and economic problems. They are all one and the same. Today we have several speakers who will touch upon different aspects of the HydroNet project and its importance to Maryland's resilience. And now it is my pleasure to welcome our first speaker, Annapolis Mayor Gavin Buckley. Please come to the podium, Gavin.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much, everybody. I am lucky enough to be the mayor of the state capital of Maryland. Welcome to Anne Arundel County. Welcome to Maryland. Welcome to the state that leads on the environment. I want to say a big thank you for the science. This is ground zero for sea level rise. When President Pine, I met him a few minutes ago, I told him, you had me at University of Maryland. So thank you so much for University of Maryland's presence here. I can tell you as a mayor of this state capital, part of my uniform is a pair of boots that come up to my knees. So we are on track to have the highest flooding year in the history of this city. Many people who live in this city know what sea level rise looks like. They try to come to work across the Eastport Bridge and they get turned away because Compromise Street is flooded. They try to come to a restaurant on Dock Street and they can't go because the water is too high. You can't park on this street. Behind you all, I'm proud to say, in a couple of years from now, that'll be 6 feet higher and we'll create an amazing public space that will be able to hold the water back and protect the historic district. So this is one of the most famous historic cities in America, but it is leading the way in technology. We like big ideas here in Annapolis. Please keep bringing them to us. We want to be the lead. We want to be the resilience capital. It is Maryland's time to lead. We're going to set the pace, and these kind of smart technologies show people how it's done. So thank you all for being here today. I'm going to hand it off to, because I got the hardest task here, because this is the hardest name to say. I have to hand it off to, look at this, Emutab Vershni. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you. And Australia is very close to India, so I should be better.
You're great. You're really good. So, distinguished guests, friends, colleagues, it's a delight for me to welcome all of you to the unveiling of the Maryland HydroNet. When I first heard about the HydroNet and its potential, I was very excited to hear that the University of Maryland will be leading it. University of Maryland President Darrell Vines, Provost Jennifer King Rice have strongly encouraged all of us at the University of Maryland to focus on solving the grand challenges of our time. This includes addressing the impacts of climate change through science. HydroNet is a very compelling project which is being led by the Climate Resilience Network, which is funded by the University of Maryland's Grand Challenges Institutional Grant. This was first led by Professor Ellen Williams, and now it's being led by Professor Ralph Ferraro, right over here. This network brings together a number of outstanding researchers, scientists, students, and postdocs from the departments of atmospheric oceanic science, geology, geographical sciences, and the Earth System Science Interdisciplinary Center, as well as the Marine, Estuarine, and Environmental Sciences Graduate Program. Researchers in the Climate Resilience Network are excited to participate and install this network of water level sensors across the state and over the Chesapeake Bay. These sensors will now drive a data-driven model of decision making that will be available throughout the state. This project highlights our university's mission of service to the state, as well as to the counties of Arundel as well as Charles County. An investment in this will lead to a future where local communities will have better tools to safeguard their children, their families, the local businesses and towns from these dangerous floods. I want to thank all of you for supporting this important project, and I can't think of a more important work at this time that we can all be engaging in. I'm confident that looking back, we will see this date today as the time when we had this incredible force multiplier related to flood safety and emergency management in the state of Maryland. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Michael Hinson, who's our State of Maryland's Chief Resiliency Officer. Before his appointment by Governor Westmore in November of 2023, Michael had already spent over 10 years with the Howard County Office of Emergency Management, with over 3 years as its director. And he assisted with the Herculean recovery efforts after the devastating floods in the downtown Ellicott City in 2016 and 2018. Michael, welcome.
All right. Well, what a crowd, first of all. It's amazing. Very happy to see this many people interested in this topic in particular. As somebody who's obviously had experience with various forms of weather, not just flooding, but all kinds of weather, and the way that it can impact our communities, I'm personally very moved to see so many people who seem to have a stake in this and understand that and are working with us to be successful. So I just first want to start off by thanking everyone here for inviting us, the Maryland Department of Emergency Management, to be a part of this historic event. This new tool will provide enhanced decision-making awareness for local emergency managers, elected officials, public works, and planning and zoning officials as well. This network of sensors in our tidal areas will allow us to monitor sea level changes in near real time. This will enhance our ability to alert people to potential flooding in a more timely manner and in more areas along our coastal communities, especially in underserved communities in southern Maryland and on the Eastern Shore. This new network will enhance our existing network of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration tidal gauges to record water level rises around the state of Maryland. The continuing partnership among our organizations, the state, federal, and local levels, continues to help us adapt to the changing climate. Now let me just take a second to explain a little bit more on how this tool affects the field of emergency management. It was just about 18 months ago that we, MDEM, partnered with the University of Maryland College Park to announce the creation of a series of weather stations known as the Maryland Mesonet. Along with the Maryland Mesonet, these new sensors will provide a holistic snapshot of how climate is directly impacting various areas across the state of Maryland. As we deal with the effects of climate change, the data from these sensors can help shape future land use decisions, enhance flood alert messaging and warning, and create a more resilient Maryland overall. These new HydroNet stations will focus on areas that are traditionally underserved by existing tidal measuring gauges to help us make sure that we have measurements in the communities that are most vulnerable across the state as well. The initial sensors will focus here in Annapolis and nearby on the Deal Peninsula. This data can provide important information for local emergency managers and other partner agencies in the region, as mentioned earlier. The data from this project can be combined with the information gathered from our rapidly expanding Mesonet system and other sources to produce that holistic view of how we have to face these effects of climate change. From the mountains of Western Maryland to the coastal communities along the Atlantic Ocean, everybody will have more data and better decision-making ability. 10 Mesonet sites are already up and operating, collecting data available to the public, and 12 more sites are currently under construction. Eventually, we plan to have a network of about 70 sites across the state to gather real-time data. Lastly, HydroNet network enhances our efforts to create a more resilient Maryland. This project dovetails with the work at the local, regional, and national levels and will contribute to coastal resilience and coastal flood risk prediction. The project will also increase equitable data collection and help fill gaps in underrepresented, underserved, and overburdened communities. Once again, thank you for allowing the Maryland Department of Emergency Management to participate in this historic event, and we look forward to using the information from HydroNet working with our state and local partners and those who come to Maryland to live, work, and play, and hopefully make everyone here and everyone who's not here more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Amitabh and Michael, for your leadership and support. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Stuart Pittman, Anne Arundel County Executive, to the podium.
Well, it is good to be here. on this high tide morning where there's a puddle over there, and I understand that we were pretty close to flooded earlier, and it's happening over and over here, ground zero in Maryland for impact of climate change. But I represent Anne Arundel County, which has 530 miles of coast. We are very, very proud of the beautiful rivers that we have coming in off of the Chesapeake Bay. We have all kinds of businesses, whether they're maritime or other, that are right on the water, and we have a lot of folks who live right there. And then we have whole neighborhoods that are on low-lying areas, particularly in South County. And the impacts of sea level rise are a constant concern. And every time there's a report of storm surge, there are a lot of questions coming into our office. Is it going to be this high? Is it going to be that high? I know just where it has to be to flood my house or to flood my business, and have to bring in the crew to rebuild each time that it happens. Having these sensors is real-time information, quick, and information that our Office of Emergency Management can actually respond to. Of course, it's data that can then be used for predicting future impacts, but it is stuff that our Office of Emergency Management, Preeti Emmerich, I don't know if she's here, but I know she's very excited about this. Hi, Joe. Okay, well represented. You know, it seems like a small thing, but it is a part of a big picture movement, a big effort. So the state of Maryland, Governor Moore has put serious money into the budget this time. I mean, we didn't even have a resilience department that was working on this stuff before Mr. Hines came in. So that is a big positive step. In Anne Arundel County, I remember back when getting together with Senator Sarah Alford and saying, okay, in order to do a resilience authority, we're going to need state authorization. So we got to get a bill to do that. That passed. And then we had to go to our county council and say, we want to have a resilience authority to get some of these projects to protect our infrastructure off of our regular books so that we can finance them. And so we created it, we funded it, and Matt Fleming is here who runs it and has already raised some $30 million in outside money to come in and address some of these things. Our residents are thrilled by that. Our residents really are impacted and care about the impacts of climate change. And so I just want to celebrate today that we have the University of Maryland, we have the smartest folks in the state, we have the academics, we have the politicians, we have the agencies, the directors of agencies, we've got the yacht club, we've got everybody, we've got the community here. And I don't know that there are many places in the world where people, or in the country, where people are this close to the impacts of what is going on. So let's keep up the great work. Let's take this data and let's plan for whatever may come. And let's raise City Dock.
Yeah. Well, if you look to your right, you can see one of the reasons we're doing this. What are we leaving those kids in the next decades when it's their turn to take over? Thank you, Stuart, for your partnership on this project. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Charles County Commissioner Reuben Collins, President, to the podium.
Don't tell them that you got the Resilience Authority first.
I was getting ready to say it. Before I went there, though, I did want to acknowledge representatives from Charles County's Resilience Authority. This has been an ongoing effort for the county, and I would like to say it's been a friendly rivalry between County Executive Pittman and I on this very issue. Who was the first? And sometimes it went beyond being a friendly rivalry to almost being an aggressive rivalry, but was
wait, there's peace to be had. We figured out we're the first multi-jurisdictional resilience authority because it's the county and the city. But they're the first.
That distinction, notwithstanding, Charles County government and the Resilience Authority of Charles County are proud to be active partners in the University of Maryland's robust and impactful efforts to combat climate change. I can tell you personally that climate change is real. It becomes real every time there's a major storm within our community, because without fail, residents call you, they text you, they let you know what's going on in their communities. And it reached the pitch where we understood as a government that we had to address this directly. We recognize that climate change is here, and with it, rising sea levels, storm surges, and flooding. Over 50 million people in the United States today live in high flood risk areas. A community's vulnerability to flooding is based on more than just its exposure to rising water. How flood waters affect our communities vary wildly, depending on who you are and where you live. Floods expose and reinforce inequities. Certain groups, such as people of color, residents living in manufactured homes, and persons with disabilities, are more likely to experience significant impacts from flooding than other groups. We know that economic, political, and land use decisions of the past have led to these disadvantages. Unfortunately, they also have less ability and power to access resources and advocate for policy changes or necessary investments. The University of Maryland's Climate Resilience Network and our partnership in this network is rooted in recognizing that no one should be left behind. This is one of the many reasons our local government is actively working with the University of Maryland and others to establish a network of sea level monitoring sensors around the entire state. Charles County experiences unique challenges because it has extensive shoreline boundaries and many low-lying areas that are directly affected by climate change. As such, we know that our current infrastructure may be vulnerable to the effects of rising sea levels and more significant storms. As one of the counties participating, we're pleased to be working with scientists from the University of Maryland to examine ways to prepare for, understand, and mitigate the effects of climate change. 2 weeks ago, sensors were installed in Charles County at the Nanjemoy Environmental Education Center in Southern Park. And that area is a part of what are called equity emphasis areas based on the Council of Government and how they look at where inequities exist throughout the state. We anticipate that these sensors will provide science-based metrics to ensure that we are equitably assisting communities by responding to the effects of climate change. A network of these sensors placed in all communities throughout Maryland's shorelines gives everyone, regardless of race, income, or situation, an early warning of when, where, and how much flooding will occur. The data we collect will help us understand and mitigate these impacts in the long term. So we absolutely appreciate this opportunity to be partners in this very important endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben, for supporting this project. Is there a betting pool going on there? Can we get into this? Like, who saves the state first? I'll get in on that. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Gerhard Kuska, Executive Director of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Association Coastal Ocean Observing System. Mayor Kus, to the podium. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate and am grateful for the invitation to be part of this wonderful moment in time here in not just Annapolis and Maryland, but really the Mid-Atlantic and our nation. I lead the Mid-Atlantic region of our U.S. Integrated Ocean Observing System. Now, many of you may know what that is, but for those that don't, this is a public-private partnership that was established in law about 15 years ago. And it brings together 17 federal agencies and then all the expertise, local communities, and government at all levels to work together to solve problems, the things we're talking about here today. Whether it's maritime safety, water quality, fisheries and natural resources, offshore energy, wind energy, renewables, and coastal hazards, issues that we're dealing with sea level rise, flooding, storms, and so on. Now, having spent some time in academia, I know that the important groundbreaking research that's done doesn't often allow new faculty and others to focus on things like applied research and applying things to our community situations. It ends up having a lower priority and being considered sometimes somewhat pedestrian. But I can tell you there's nothing pedestrian about saving property and lives and our communities. I want to commend President Pines and the University of Maryland for the grand challenge, for this vision, and for the HydroNet. One of the new areas that we as a sustained observing system work on and want to work on as part of our coastal hazard effort is to support flood forecasting and actual water level and wave information going in real time to communities and to those that are making forecasts and making decisions. As part of our national network, we have agreed on an approach to use upcoming funding that we will be receiving, federal funding, to develop this network. And it is wonderful to see the University of Maryland leading already before we even have what a show of support. It's wonderful to see the leadership here at the university and at the state level doing the type of applied work that we often have to drag folks along to do for the reasons I mentioned earlier. This is a wonderful, not just a role model for Maryland, but really for the region and the country. And Maryland has been an important part of of this Mid-Atlantic Partnership from the beginning. We're celebrating 20 years. This year, Dr. Bill Boycourt, who retired a few years ago, was one of our original founders, and it's wonderful to have new leadership in Dr. Tim Canty and others, Dr. Louis Uccellini, former head of the National Weather Service, who now is affiliated and working with the university, partnering and asking us to support these types of initiatives, which are exactly what the constituents are telling us to do. It's wonderful to see the county and local officials and organizations supporting. I see Dave Mandel, a great partner with emergency management here in Annapolis, who's been talking to us and advocating for this type of work here in Annapolis. So we plan to invest coming this fall, starting several $100,000, and we want to make this as part of not just the regional network, the data that NOAA is interested in for their forecast to validate their models, but to serve those communities that for as long as we can remember have never enjoyed this sort of data. They don't all need a $100,000 sensor sitting on their dock. They sometimes just need to know, do I need to move the fire engines? Do I need to evacuate? And how can I provide the community with relevant and believable forecasts so that they trust what they're hearing and so that they don't think that, you know, when they really need to move, that we're just crying wolf and trying to get them to move for no reason at all. So I commend this initiative. Tim Canty, thank you very much. We look forward to working with you, ingesting those data, making them more broadly available, more broadly applicable, and to supporting this partnership in any way we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gerhard, for your words and support. We currently, none of this happens without partners. You can imagine if a scientist starts walking around with a drill and starts putting holes in docks, it probably won't go over too well. And it also, going from an idea to realizing that idea, talk is cheap, doing the work is not. And if I just walk around with a great idea with no funding, it's going to be a great idea with no funding. The support from the Grand Challenges shows that we're serious and that we're putting our energy and efforts on the table, and we want to partner with everybody else. And I'm hoping that, you know, this is our list of current partners. I'm hoping to have slides and slides and slides of logos and partners that we can work together. And we had our program manager, Mike Maddox, convened a stakeholder meeting in January, and someone asked, well, where do you want to put these sensors? Like, and it's not up to me. You tell us where you want the sensors, and that's when we found out about like Cobb Island and the areas in Annapolis, and, you know, have sensor will travel, and so we started putting them up. We currently have 6 sensors operating, 4 in Annapolis with a couple more planned for Annapolis, and we're working closely with folks here on the ground. Where do you need these sensors? That's where we're going to put them. We have a lot of slogans that came up over this time. Cooperation, not competition. Good enough is perfect right now. We need information where we don't have any. Is this a wind-driven event? Is this an upstream storm event? We need data, and this is what we're trying to address. As you can see on the site, on the map, we have many more sites planned or that have been requested. We're going to set up as many sensors as we can afford, but we need our partners to tell us where they're most needed. Water level is the start. We have the Maryland Mesonet, and I think the program manager for the Mesonet, James, is here. Water level is a start. Once you have a sensor located, it's a lot easier to start adding other things like low-cost weather stations, air quality perhaps, water quality, to try to go to that holistic vision of environmental monitoring, addressing the needs of our communities. We're starting, baby steps, walk before we run, but we really have larger visions of expanding and coordinating all of our resources. Our colleagues at the Naval Academy as well are here, and we're looking forward to a strong partnership with them. Now I'm going to invite Dr. Brian Glazer, Professor of Oceanography at University of Hawaii, and founder of Hohonu Incorporated, up here to show you what one of the sensors looks like and the dashboard of real-time data being collected from the sensors already installed on the Chesapeake Bay.
Aloha, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Maybe 40 years ago, I used to live in Charles County. 25 years ago, I was doing graduate work over in Lewis, Delaware, on the Chesapeake Bay. And so I've been in Hawaii for 20 years, but the Mid-Atlantic has really resonates with a lot of my upbringing. We launched Hohonu as a public-private. We're a Delaware C corporation, but we are public-private in that what we're doing today is exactly why we needed to get it out of my lab at the research level and into communities. Your tax dollars at work. The federal government installs a NOAA tide gauge, probably a $300,000 investment, and it takes years before that data is really publicly available. When we do it, we FedEx this to you second day air, and we help you think about where you need the data, where to put it. It's very easy. A lot of this technology is available today. It wasn't available 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 6 years ago. It was still research level, right? Funded by the National Science Foundation. 10 years ago, we started the first prototype on a $10,000 seed grant from NOAA's Sea Grant in Hawaii. Right? You talk about an investment that really paid off, right? So now we're in 15 states, 130 locations with communities like you, right? In the past 4 months, I've been to New Orleans, Charleston, Annapolis a couple of times, Boston, the Cape, Santa Cruz, Alaska, and Hawaii. Everybody is ground zero for sunny day flooding now. It's not just a southeast or mid-Atlantic thing anymore, and people are really capturing onto that. So what we did was kind of a combination of hardware, but we're not selling you a sensor. We know you don't want to buy a sensor and deal with it. You want access to data that's actionable and reliable. And so we built it, making it cost-effective and easy to deploy, but really the value of the platform is in the data, right? We took a lot of painstaking tasks to be able to make sure that we're keeping costs down, but not compromising on data rigor, right? So the scientists are still using it. I'm still a professor, I'm still a scientist. We want to make sure that the rigorous data is available to everyone who needs it. And so that meant automating some of the quality assurance, quality control tools on the back end. It meant making visualization techniques so that it's not a professor and a student downloading a CSV file and plotting it, publishing a paper, graduating a student, and moving on. It means mayors are waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to a text message alert saying, whoa, I need to reroute ambulance traffic. I need to deploy flood barriers. So that's what the app is. And there's a card on all of the chairs, and there's a swag table over here. Please download the app. Let us know, right? We're still small and nimble. We can make adjustments all the time. So we don't have Wi-Fi here, so I don't have a live demo. And Steve Jobs used to say, maybe don't ever try a live demo. But this is a screen capture. And so at dashboard.hohonu.io, this is all freely, publicly available data. You can click, drag, zoom in. We're looking at the 4 sensors that are deployed here around Annapolis. That blue dash line is NOAA's federal government prediction for town dock. You saw it was about a foot off this morning, and we did have a little bit of a puddle down at the end of the street there. Our sensors are pinging every second, like a dolphin or a bat, measuring distance to water, and we're uploading 1-minute averages. That's largely unprecedented. So you're getting a granularity in both time and space because of the cost affordability nature of this that was totally unprecedented even 5 years ago. We also start where NOAA leaves off for predictive analytics, and we do some machine learning and data science techniques to be able to improve upon that, roughly 80% more accurate. We've only had these sensors installed for a month or two around Annapolis. Already the one at, I think, East Yacht Club, we've already integrated the predictions, and so that should be at least more accurate than what you're getting from tides and currents. Zoom out, we're also ingesting all federally available public data. So every NOAA tide gauge is also available on this website, as well as the interpolated prediction sites. Those aren't worth much, right? And so we're really trying to increase the densification throughout the region to give you live data where you need it most, but then also provide those predictive analytics. So again, we've only been deployed here in Maryland for about 45 days. Some of the case studies elsewhere, we're in 15 states. In the city of Boston, we have some of these sensors here, right? Measuring distance to dry land, to the dock, until they're not, right? Again, we're pinging every second. So centimeter by centimeter, down at Long Wharf Pier as that king tide event is coming up. This is a sunny day in Boston. That's not a storm surge, right? As the high tide comes up in the harbor, we're measuring centimeter by centimeter as you have centimeters or feet of flooding on dry land. We're working closely with, as Gerhard mentioned, the NOAA's Integrated Ocean Observing System. We have about 70 sensors deployed from Florida to North Carolina now over a 4-year backdated pilot program. So we're not waiting for FEMA to update flood maps. And so the yellow line and the red lines there, the dashed horizontal lines, those are working with the cities, right? So we'll tell people, tell us what date and time you captured that photo where that road is flooded, and we'll put in an alert threshold for you so you get text message alerts. In this case, right, parents weren't able to pick up their kids from preschool during high tide flooding events, and the nearest NOAA tide gauge just wasn't sufficient to be able to accurately tell when that's happening. We're making it very easy to access data. So again, you can do everything with the data, including the predictions, or download CSV files from the website, and then on the iOS app Tidecast, Android coming soon, you can also interact with all of the data. And so with that, I can also direct you to our frequently asked questions. Drop me a line, grab some shirts, some hats, some dry bags, some cards. If you don't, I have to take it home to Hawaii with me. If I can consolidate down to just a carry-on for the trip bag, I've done my job. I'll be around today and also tomorrow if anybody has questions or wants to chat.
And now it's my honor to welcome to the podium for closing remarks University of Maryland President Darrell Pines. Without the grand challenge vision of Darrell Pines, this doesn't happen. It's just an idea. I'm sitting in my office today wondering if my grad students are actually getting work done. This doesn't happen without vision and support. And so on behalf of our team, I'm extraordinarily grateful for this opportunity to serve our community. Dr. Pines.
You know, I was sitting there, and you know, we never get to come here, Mayor Buckley, and get this backdrop. And both Amitabh and I are just like, this is great. We should come here more often. And I'm serious, you know, because we're in College Park, and you know, we don't get this beautiful backdrop. We don't get the horns from the ships going by, and we love the banter between you, Mr. Collins, and County Executive Pittman, because in College Park, I'll give you one of these similar kind of rivalry. We always like to say that we're the home of aviation because you probably don't know, but College Park Aviation Airport is the oldest operating airport. So everybody, everywhere I go, it's like, we're not the oldest operation, the Wright brothers came here to fly. And so I love the banter between you two about this project. This is an exciting day, folks. This is truly an exciting day. So I really thank all of you, Mayor Buckley, County Executive Pittman, President Collins, Mr. Hinson, Dr. Kuska, Dr. Glazer, Dr. Canty, and Dean Varshney. It is true what Dr. Canty said. At College Park, I don't know if you know this, with NOAA being co-located with us, we probably have in the state of Maryland and in the nation the highest number of climate scientists per capita. But they're all concentrated in a little 1 square mile radius, in a sense. And Ralph is there as well from our Essex Center with all of his scientists. And what we tried to do about 4 years ago is like, look, I was talking to Dr. Kuska before coming here. I said, we need to do something that actually helps real people, that actually solves some of these real huge grand challenges that are facing society, right? The ones that you heard from my colleagues, the previous speakers. So how could the university marshal all of its talent and partnerships to solve problems that decision makers like Mayor Buckley and County Executive Pittman and President Collins and the Chief Resilient Officer, Mr. Henson, could use? Not another publication like Dr. Kusa said. Of course we're going to do another publication in Nature, another publication in Science. That's what we do. That's what we do well, by the way. But now what has happened is we actually put out a call throughout the entire university. It was a $30 million call. We funded 50 projects. This is one of the projects, right? This is actually one of the top projects. And to the credit of Dr. Canty, Dr. Glazer, and the entire team at University of Maryland, they wanted to come up with ideas that would essentially really solve and take climate out of the laboratory, out of the computer, and to the decision makers. That is why we're here today. And the partnership we are most grateful for. I was walking in with Amitabh, and tell you a little funny story. So I was like, hey Amitabh, so what does meso mean? And, MesoNet. And he didn't know either, by the way. just to keep it real. He didn't know, I didn't know. So then we talked to Dr. Canty, and he gave us the answer. So, it's the scale of storms and climate from micro to meso to a more global scale. And so right now we have, today, talking about the HydroNet. We already have the MesoNet across the state. It's almost completed. So I was just telling Dr. Varshney, we need Skynet again. Different kind of Skynet, though. Different kind of Skynet, right? We need those satellites of eyes for that environmental monitoring to close that loop that Dr. Canty and Dr. Glazer are talking about. So today is truly, truly a great day. Now, every year, my family goes to Bethany Beach. How many people go to Bethany Beach? Like every year, like I do. See? Marylanders, Delawareans, that's where we go, right? So I've been going there for 20 years. My kids are now 26 and 28. And we've been going there for 20 years, literally every year. And I've been watching that beach erosion just decay to this past year. For the first time ever, they had to rebuild the beaches. And they were working on it for months. And then a storm wiped it out. And I was like, oh my God, after all those millions of dollars. So folks, climate change is real. You just have to see it and open up your eyes. And now we are trying to do something about it by coming together as a team together. So it's going to take a partnership with County Executive Pittman, Mayor Buckley, President Collins, and Mr. Henson, and Dr. Kuska. But when all of these groups work together, academia, nonprofits, and government, we can make sure that folks in Annapolis and everywhere are able to lead stable and productive lives of dignity with pride and hope for the future. Indeed, today is a day where Maryland leads. Projects such as the HydroNet are really the best symbol for what institutions of higher education like mine, the University of Maryland, can help to accomplish. It shows how we can support the good of everyone by taking discoveries from the laboratories and from the computers, from a whiteboard in research lab to the real world, and letting decision makers use that information. This is how we can make a real difference for real people right here in Annapolis. And I'm confident that there's so many committed individuals in this little tent that we're under. And I thought it was going to rain, that's why I brought my umbrella. Another climate problem. That the individuals and organizations and partnerships, the grand challenges of climate change, is one that we will truly be able to solve because of this partnership. So let's all get to work. Let's get to work feverishly. We need more sensors, Dr. Glazer. So you don't have to go back to Hawaii. We can put you up in an office in College Park. You did your research anyway here. You can continue to come back to the Chesapeake Bay. We have an office for you. But let's all work together. It's a great partnership. This is a great day for Annapolis, a great day for Anne Arundel County, a great day for the state of Maryland, a great day for University of Maryland. Let's go forward. Let's go forward fearlessly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pines. Want to thank all of you for coming today. I'm one person. It requires a team to make this happen. I would like to briefly acknowledge Michael Maddox, our program manager. He's the one actually drilling the holes in the docks. I got to do it once, and I'm a theoretician, and so I'm not allowed to touch anything anymore. Kazi Medley, our communications and outreach specialist. We have a lot of Climate Resilience Network swag over there. There's pins, there's seed packets. It's important to get the science out of the office and into the streets and into the water, but also into the classroom. And we've hired an education innovation coordinator, a former middle school teacher herself, so actually knows how the schools work, Jennifer Collins, who's developing content for our schools to use these data. We want our communities. This isn't a University of Maryland. This is our data for our schools, for our communities. We'll slap a Maryland logo on it, but this is all for you. We'll now open the floor for questions from media and the audience. Thank you very much. Any questions? If not, my wife told me to take a picture. She's like, have you taken any pictures yet? I'm like, a little busy, sweetie.
You can do the selfie.
Thank you. My wife's a preschool teacher. She says, your job's so hard. I'm like, oh no. You've got 24-year-olds. I've got 24-year-olds. I'd rather. Anyway. Any questions on anything?